Hello, this is MemeAnalysis, and today we're going to be talking about why millennials are so cringe. Yeah, I just went there. All right. Let me just check the notes. That's right. We didn't prepare at all. But perhaps most important is the birth placement of Pluto in the millennials chart. Now, you might not know about Pluto, but Pluto is a planet that's like of transformation. Didn't know that. You didn't know that one. Now you do. You just learned something. You did a thing today. You just did a thing. You just learned that Pluto is the planet of transformation, rebirth, death, and change. And it was domiciled when the millennials were being born. The millennials were being born while Pluto was in Scorpio. Now, Pluto in Scorpio is huge, deathly transformations. And I think that we can see it. But sadly, I think that we can see the failure of it far more clearly. I think that there are many millennials doing well. If you're watching this out of hate and fear, fearing that you are a cringe millennial, I think it's likely that if you're even on this channel, that you're one of the ones who made it. But I think that millennials were faced with a dark truth of reality. They have witnessed the failure of a great many institutions. They have borne witness to a great failure of culture, especially to 9/11, the national tragedy. And they responded in two ways, I think, two distinct ways. One is that they honed in completely as individuals, scorpionic individuals. They are, night owls. They became nocturnal. They went deep into the dark. They glow in the dark. They're radioactive. They are scary scorpions wandering in the desert. Individuals. And on the other hand, the mass, the consumerist masses of millennials. I was thinking about how, millennials with Gen X parents, and generally with Gen X preceding them, they had, a kind of wide array of grunge, punk culture. And they abandoned it in favor of Pokémon. They abandoned it in favor of Nintendo. And I think that's huge. I think it's huge that, they were offered the cup to kind of continue this cup of culture that had kind of failed with Gen X, with Creed and such. But they could have had this chance to kind of continue the culture, and instead they drank fully of popular media. And this, I think millennials are the birth of the weeb, the birth of the anime fan as we know it, where, Japanese media, like, I don't know, what is it, Funimation and 4Kids started bringing it, more to mass, more to Sunday morning, or Saturday morning, and they bought in fully. As I was writing my thoughts on Millennial Cringe, I said about thinking about anime, about weebs, and I just put out the cute video today. So if you're watching this in the future, we filmed this the day that the cute video came out, and somebody said, I think it's part of the reason that, why do you think anime caught on to cuteness really early, like the East caught on to cuteness really early. And the thought that came to me, this will sound fucked up, but the bomb was an undeniable aeonic event. Aquarius was not like, hello, I'm here. No, it was, in like gangbusters. The Aeon started with the bomb, so clearly. And the reaction was, cuteness. I think that's very real. It's very real, very real. Pluto. Now, Pluto, in the lifetime of the millennial, when I was born, it was in Sagittarius. In fact, it is directly on my sun. But that's neither here nor there. What we're talking about, especially in regards to the development of the millennial, is Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn, and the Wall Street collapse, and the general collapse of American financial institutions, and I suppose international financial institutions. Capricorn, of course, being the material sign. It's a sign of material gain and wealth, and Pluto, of course, is its shaking up, its death and transformation. So the millennial was born into a failure, born into a system that failed. And so I think that, this nihilism set in. They were not going to have, or so they thought, they were not going to have the same benefits as their parents, as their grandparents. And this is still a huge opinion among them. A huge opinion among young people is that, I've been cheated out of my inheritance. Rather than like, oh, thank God these decrepit institutions are failing. Now we can change it. No. The failure of financial institutions led them to deny the reality before them and to, again, escape back into their childhood, back into Pokemon and Digimon and Nintendo, which is why I think that, and this is true, this is one of the real first occurrences of the soy boy consumer nihilism. In the past, kids would grow up and make fun of what they enjoyed as kids. They'd mock it. They thought it was stupid, which it was. It was stupid. It was dumb. No rock and roll singers are singing about how much they love Howdy Doody and cowboy movies. They might dress a little Western, but they were living, they were doing. They hadn't bought in. They didn't buy into this nonsense. But the cringe millennial bought in to media. They bought in wholesale. Their identity became formed by this escape route. I think, honest to God, I think that in the past, the people who were really online had mental problems. They were very, very socially awkward weirdos who were like, I'm going to devote my life to the internet. And then that was pretty much it, Or people do work and use it and stuff as a tool, but people who are really into it were really deeply kind of sickos, weirdos. The millennials are the first who are like, this is my shit. This is where I'm going to find out neat factoids. And, BuzzFeed and Tumblr and Reddit. And I suppose the beginnings of 4chan, these are like, I guess kind of your three flavors of millennial internet. You have like a generation that bought in to the internet. Again, in this escape from the failure of reality, they bought into the internet. And, I think a lot of them did well enough. They've made some money. They built brands. They built identities. But they lost a larger and more meaningful culture. They forsook it. Rather than ever creating something anew, the internet has been a place to talk about objects and media that you consume largely. It's here we go to talk about sports. Here we go to talk about Nintendo. Here we go to talk about Xbox. I think creativity was very much forsaken in this social collective failure. That is why the millennial is cringe, because the millennial is reenacting bits of media at all times. The millennial is always in a state of reference. It's part of what's cringe about Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino, I think, is very much making a movie. He is Gen X, but he's making a movie that is perfect for millennials in that it is endless reference, endless homage. It's like crossovers, too. Like, oh my God, Pikachu met Sonic? Yeah, that happened. I'm going to spend $100 to watch that video game happen. There was no mass culture. It was the beginning of the end of mass culture. Good mass culture. There is no defining millennial art movement, no defining millennial music. I think Gen Z has attempted this with hyper pop, mumble. I don't know. I don't know what they call it. I don't care. But they got into that. I think Gen Z is fighting the system. They're fighting the power with their Pluto Sagittarius, which is, the torment of faith, the torment of belief. Their belief systems are falling apart, in large part because of the nihilism adopted by the majority of Gen Z. Whereas the Chad Gen Alpha, they're Pluto Capricorns. This is why you find these kids who are like making millions of dollars, when they're in middle school already. They're a very industrious generation. I will give them that. They will build what the few Pluto Sagittarians set the blueprints for. Born too late to explore the world. Born too early to explore space. Born just in time for dank memes. This is the battle cry of the millennial. This is the battle cry as we entered the age of Aquarius. An age where mass ideas, mass beliefs, mass behaviors are of the utmost importance. Do not shy away from the importance of the work that we have to do. We have been set in this time to understand and produce brilliant ideas, brilliant blueprints for the future, brilliant understandings and modes of being. We have radically new options now, radical new technologies. And it is our job to understand that, to make it good, to make it new, to do right with this immensely powerful but ridiculous seeming tool. We have been handed, verily, the blood, the poetic blood from Odin. It has dripped from his beak and some from his ass right into your mouth. And you must speak poetic. This is our job. This is our fate. Undo the cringe millennial upbringing that you've had. Don't choose Pokémon. Don't choose Nintendo. Choose Americulta. Choose MemeAnalysis. And what's that? Oh yeah, memes matter.